Welcome to the Halligans and Half Wheel Podcast, presented by Box 1971, where we're changing the culture of the fire service one fireman at a time.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are in the world. This is the Halligans and Half Wheels Podcast, brought to you by Box 1971, where we're changing culture of the fire service one fireman at a time. Joined here in Firehouse 71 by a man that is considered by many in the Piedmont Triad region as the legend, Charlie Gray. And Charlie has quite the story to tell. It has been a long and storied career. Charlie, welcome to Firehouse 71. How are you?
Well, thank you. I'm doing well, thanks.
You look good. You got a haircut.
I know, you missed the ponytail. But,
I miss it, man. I miss it.
Yeah, well, the whole reason for that was Franklin County.
Yeah? You just, you were sticking it to them?
They pissed me off.
Yeah? Shocker.
They kept getting on me about my hair being too long and needing a haircut and this and that, and the more they did it, the more I let it grow.
Defiance.
Yes.
Defiance.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I have had the privilege of working with both Grays.
Yeah.
Your son, Gus, God rest his soul, and you.
Yeah.
I worked your last tour with you, and Gus was a hell of a fireman.
He was a character.
He was. We were just talking before we started about your grandfather being a character. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think the Grays come by it honestly.
Well, and my father, he was a volunteer for, 30 years probably. But back in the early 40s
Okay.
through the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been in the family for a long time.
Short boots and rubber coats. Not even three-quarter boots.
Didn't even have. I mean, I remember when they went to hip boots and long coats.
Yeah, they probably the guys were up in arms about that.
Yeah, because they thought they were just too uncomfortable.
They ought to see the shit we lug around now.
And what the hell's an air pack?
Yeah. Until you get into hydrocarbons, and then you want it. So, where did you do your growing up at?
Southern Maryland, down on the Chesapeake Bay.
Wow.
I lived 2 blocks away from the Chesapeake Bay. If it was warm enough, I was in water.
Really?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you graduated school up there?
Yep, sure did.
All right.
Um,
What was the plan? Did you have a plan?
yeah, I came home my senior year. I came home and told my mother I'd joined the Marine Corps.
How'd that go over?
Like
Like a-
turd in a fishbowl.
It was bad, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was real mad?
Yeah.
All right.
Really mad.
What year was that?
1970. Yep.
So that was at the height of Vietnam.
Yep. Yep.
She was
And-
not happy with her baby boy.
No. But then she found out what I was going to be doing, and she kind of calmed herself down a little bit because my primary MOS, or my primary job in the Marine Corps, was a jet engine mechanic on A-6 fighter jets, TA-4s, and F-4 Phantoms.
They trusted you.
Uh-huh. I was the collateral duty inspector. I signed off on engine changes and major modifications or anything like that. Of course, their idea of quality assurance was if you signed off on it, you flew with the pilot in the test top.
Oh.
So
So
they
that's
knew-
real QA.
Yeah.
It's not like this stuff going on with Boeing right now.
Right. They knew that if you signed off on it and were willing to jump in that back seat and fly with them, then it's going to be okay.
Holy shit. So I am smoking the K-Fire by Karen Berger Cigars. This is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper, jalapa binder, and filler from Karen's farm. It is absolutely exquisite. Just got rated 90 in Cigar Journal. Charlie, you're not much of a cigar smoker, but what are you smoking on?
Just Marlboro Silver.
Just Marlboro Silvers.
Yep, used to be the Reds, but I've gotten older. Got to cut back on it a little bit.
Used to be a cowboy.
Uh-huh.
So your time in the Marine Corps, you went to Parris Island?
Went to Parris Island, left there, and went to Meridia, or not Meridia, but Millington, Tennessee, which is right outside of Memphis.
Okay.
One time I got locked up, was in Memphis.
What happened?
Well, we had been to the VFW and was drinking Boilermakers, and it went downtown, and I had to urinate, and I stood behind the telephone pole on Four Corners. And the cop tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, I had to pee." He said, "But you're in the middle of downtown." I said, "I'm standing behind the telephone pole."
And you went with him.
Yeah, they took me to the drunk tank for the night, but they let me out in time to get back to the base before roll call.
So no harm, no foul.
Nah.
Boy, now that would be a different story.
Oh, yeah. Now
Holy
they
cow.
just want to throw the book at you.
Wow, that is.
Back then, you could get away with a whole lot more.
It is. It's one of those things. It's kind of crazy that how times change, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you were. I wanted to ask you, what was your time like standing in the yellow footprints?
I was pretty prepared for it.
Okay.
I mean, I had a good mindset when I went in.
Okay.
I knew pretty much what I was in for, and I came out of boot camp as a PFC. Got my first stripe out of boot camp, one of 8 of 340
Wow.
guys that got a stripe out of boot camp.
Wow.
So I did that and went to my first school and finished first in the class and got another stripe from there. Went to my next school, which was in Oceana, Virginia, in June, July, and August.
Humid.
Oh, no, the beach.
Oh.
Lots of women.
Which for you was a great thing, right?
Yeah. And finished first in the class there, even though I was with a bunch of squids and Marines.
Right.
You know, because it was a
Right.
naval air station.
Right.
And finished first in the class there and made my third stripe from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just talking with Myers Jackson today. He's an auctioneer in Texas, and he was being driven around by a Navy guy that was a nuke technician on a sub. I said, "Isn't that amazing?" He said, "What's that?" I said, "The Navy giving the Marine Corps a ride." He just died laughing.
Hey, they were our taxi.
Yeah.
You know? And we were the guards on there. We were the police on the ship, too.
That's
You
crazy.
know? So we were the ones that locked up the squids when they screwed up on board.
So your time you go overseas, right? You do a couple tours, is that right?
Yeah, I did one full tour.
One full tour. Okay. All right. Come back home, made it home safe.
Yeah,
Good thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It definitely will change you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll put a fear of God in you that you've never had.
Yeah, because, I mean, things over there are totally different than they are here.
Yeah.
And especially in those particular times.
Well, I can tell you, I just got back from Nicaragua, and you talk about stepping. The second lowest GDP in the world is in Nicaragua.
Right.
I was dumbfounded, like culture shock.
Oh, yeah.
We had
for
our guards
sure.
with us. We had, a convoy of people. I couldn't believe it. I was completely dumbfounded at the culture. So I'd already talked about this, but I'm going to tell you because I haven't talked to you. We went to the firehouse. Bomberos Professional. Right? So they've got 4 guys, an old American LaFrance engine, probably from the 90s.
Uh-huh.
It's got maybe 150-foot max of 3-inch supply line, 1 cross lay. So out of curiosity, I said, "Hey, what hand tools do you have?" And they showed me 2 pick-headed axes. And I said, "Do you guys have a Halligan tool?"
What's that?
They had 1 for the entire city. The entire city. 1 million people. 1 Halligan. They said things are so poorly built here, we don't have to really worry about locked doors.
No.
I was like, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's a real fair point.
A boot to the door opens is
Yeah.
really easy.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have time for locks. Locks
No.
are a luxury, right?
Yeah.
So
And
I can empathize on a different level than what you experienced over there, but I was completely shocked at what I saw. There were things that were completely modern, and then there were things that were just
yeah.
you shake your head at. Like you'd see a G-Wagon riding down the road, and then you would look over, and there's somebody literally bathing in the creek. And you could see it all in the same sight line. You didn't have to turn your head.
I wonder where the G-Wagon came from.
Yeah, I wonder. Jeez. Because Mercedes, they're striving to get to Nicaragua.
Yeah. Grow much pot down there, do they?
A lot of good tobacco. I don't know about pot,
Yeah.
but a lot of tobacco. So you get home, you transition out of the Corps, right?
Yeah. Well, while I was in the Marine Corps, every duty station I went to, other than, of course, overseas, I joined a volunteer department because it was in my blood.
What do you mean it was in your blood?
Just because growing up, I grew up around fire departments, rode the tailboard for the first time when I was like 15, 16 years old. 'Cause
Fun,
back
wasn't it?
then they would let you do it then, you know. So I would jump on the tailboard and ride to the fire on the tailboard, you know, and back then we would try to put on the rest of our gear. We'd jump in our pants and throw our suspenders up, you know, jump on board and try to put your coat on, put your hat on, do all that and hold on at the same time.
Jeez.
But that was probably one of the reasons why they made them stop riding tailboard, is because I had a friend of mine who was 16, 17 years old, fell off the tailboard, and it killed him. He hit his head on the pavement, and it killed him. And it was not too long after that's when they started making the transition to the bigger trucks with the four-door cabs and the,
Right.
you know, things like that, because they didn't want people riding tailboards.
Yeah.
That, and they switched to safety straps, you know, thinking that was going to be the ticket to hold them onto the back of the truck, that kind of thing.
Right. No.
Most of the time, guys wouldn't even use those safety straps. They might lock an arm in the safety strap, but
Right.
they didn't put it around them.
I remember as a very small child, I remember going to the firehouse and looking at the back of the engine. There was ropes, like in the shape of a U.
Uh-huh.
I always wondered what those were for, because they weren't hose straps, right? They showed me. They got a call and they showed me. And I was like, that's so cool. I got to do it for
Oh,
6
yeah.
months. We got to ride the tailboard, and then it was over.
Yeah.
It was over. But
That was fun times, though.
well, the culture was different, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it was nobody's feelings got hurt. I think social media has hurt us more than it's helped us.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody's upset with everybody, and you can instantly air your grievance, as opposed to being able to sit down and actually have to talk to an individual or be with an individual. You can, I hate working at this firehouse, and the next thing you know, you've sent that out, and it's around the world.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And next thing you know, you're looking for another job.
Yeah. How's that work?
Yeah, because that's not the way it works.
No,
nowadays.
it's not how the world works. That's for
No,
sure.
You keep your mouth shut.
That's right. Yeah, you keep your head down and look for something to do.
Uh-huh.
Now you can't. Yeah, it's a different job for sure. So you had joined the volunteer ranks.
Yeah, and I joined Newport Volunteer Fire Department in Newport, North Carolina, when I was stationed at Cherry Point,
All right.
because I lived in the city of Newport.
Okay.
And I joined them in 1971, and I was one of the few that took the first ambulance attendance course in 1971 in Newport, North Carolina.
Ambulance attendant.
Yeah, because they didn't have EMTs back then in 71. See, the EMT program really didn't start till like 76.
What's your P number, out of curiosity? How low is it?
Oh, hell, I don't even know.
You just know you expire in 2 years, right?
April of next year.
April of next year.
April the 25th of next year.
You got all your hours ready?
Oh, no, I'm done.
You're letting her go.
I'm going to let it go. I figure I'm going to be 72 years old. I don't want to do EMS or do any of that crap anymore.
Yeah.
You know, after being a medical examiner for 11 years, it'll be, 12, 13 years that total that I'll have in as a medical examiner. And that's the only thing I'm doing now, so I'm letting it all go. I'm going to do some stuff I want to do for a change,
Hell yeah.
you know?
You've earned your keep,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because the last 4 or 5 years that I worked, I was working an average of about 100 hours a week.
Yeah. That's
Between the 24-hour shifts at
the
at
county.
the station, at the county, and working at the hospital and doing the ME work all at the same time. So,
Charlie didn't have no time for Charlie.
no, I was wore out.
Yeah, I mean, you said the other day you were going to the farm.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I hadn't heard you say that in years.
yeah,
So like you're like, I'm going to the farm. I'm like, damn, good for him. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have somewhere to be.
yeah.
Good for him. So do you remember your first fire?
my first fire that I really fought was a beach house where I lived, right on the water.
Okay.
So that was the first fire I ever remember really getting in there and trying to fight the fire. We actually made front entry into the fire at that time, which was unusual because most of the time it was surround and drowned.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
because of the construction that houses were made of back in the early or late 40s, early 50s. You know, a lot of it was balloon construction and stuff like that. So when the fire got into the walls, it went straight up to the second floor, and
Right.
you were done.
Right.
You know,
There was nothing there.
yeah, there was nothing there. But that was probably the first one that I really remember. Of course, I remember when I was working, when I moved from there down to here in 1985, I was working at Vance County Fire.
Okay.
And I was assigned to Station 1, which was the city station.
Okay.
And so I was running the ambulance during the day and running fire too at the same time. You know, and
Nothing
had,
like crossed responsibilities.
yeah, but we had this fire call, and it was a cement structure, you know, single story house. But when it was called in, it was said that there was a elderly gentleman who was an invalid still in the structure. And I remember when we pulled up there, I dove off the truck without anything other than my air pack and shot in the front door with the flames coming out the front door and did the low crawl around the structure trying to see if I could find this guy. And when I came back out, Captain Laster, my captain, who was about 6'4", probably weighed about 220, 230, had the hands of two softball gloves, was standing there going, "What the fuck are you doing?" He was not happy with me.
He was not.
He said, "You didn't even let us get a damn hose on the ground." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Cap, if I hadn't gone in there and done that and you'd have hit it with water, nobody would have seen anything. Because you and I both know when you hit it with water,
Yep.
that's the end of it right there."
No, and you didn't have a thermal imager,
No.
so it's not like you could even scan it.
Right.
Right.
So,
The game's changed.
oh yeah, a
The
lot.
game has changed a lot.
Yeah. Even for the EMS side, when you're dealing with the fire department too, at like accident scenes and stuff like that, when you get ejections,
Yeah.
you don't know if there was more than one, and that's where the thermal imaging comes in handy at an accident scene, because you can scan the area and look for another body.
Well, I will tell you that's a great segue for us because we are partnered with Seek. And we have to say that if it's economical, it's sleek, it has to be Seek. And those are the thermal imagers that we provide for training here at Box 1971. And we are a proud partner with them, as well as Thompson Multimedia. They do a phenomenal job as well, doing our graphics and awards and so on and so forth. Matex Hose, Toby over in Dothan, Alabama. He and Destin Kelton have done an amazing job. If you want gallons per second versus BTUs, no frills, no marketing, junk marketing that is, just water on the fire, that's Matex Hose. Milwaukee Tools is a proud supplier of tools for the pack out and accessories for the instructors. Box 1971, Milwaukee, nothing but heavy duty. Crestar firefighting equipment. If you're tired of silly marketing or having to pay overpriced prices for equipment, look to Crestar. You know, the makers of redhead couplings that are on 90% of your fire hose. And lastly, Sterling Rope. The first, the best, the rest just imitate in firefighter safety. The go-to name in rope and firefighter bailout equipment, that is Sterling Rope. Charlie, you couldn't have done that any better. You couldn't have done that any better, buddy. That was an amazing segue. So take me back real quick. So you get out of the Corps. Where do you move? You move down here.
No, I moved to D.C.
Okay.
first.
Okay.
And I worked in downtown D.C. for 16 years.
Oh, you was a DC Films guy.
Yeah.
Back before it was Films, right?
Yeah. That was back when the fire department and EMS were separated, and I was there during that transitioning period where they kind of sucked everybody into one group.
How was that?
It you and I both know that EMS and fire a lot of times will butt heads, even
No,
though
you
we're
don't
all
say.
even though we're all really here in the system together.
Right.
And at times we just have to work together and
Right.
that kind of thing. And I wish it was a little better than it was or is now,
Right.
because there's got to be some understanding there. People have to learn to work together at these things, or
Yeah.
things just won't work out.
People's
you
ego.
know? Yeah.
People's egos. That is. I was talking with a friend of mine today in Raleigh, and he was telling me about the egos of people, and he's like, "You're never gonna believe this," and he was right. I couldn't fucking believe what he said
Oh yeah.
because it is. And he's not
There's-
even a fireman.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, he was just talking about people in the world that you know, they want notoriety, they want this, and damn you for being on my street corner, and I'm going to shake my fist like an angry man.
Yeah.
You know, for you walking on my grass.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So,
Well,
what was it like getting on at DC?
it was a little bit harder back then
Okay.
because you got to remember this was in 1975. So that's when they were trying to break the barriers
Yep.
for a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
affirmative action and all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
they had quotas, and
Yep.
they were starting to do that. And it didn't matter if you were 10 times more qualified than the next person. It was still broke down.
Did your veterans points help you?
Some, but I think the scores I had helped the most.
You had high scores?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But it's because I'd prepared myself for it, too. I'd been studying and, making sure that I knew. And plus, I knew a lot of guys in the departments, and
Right.
they were helping me out, too. And
You wanted to get the fuck out of the Marine Corps.
well,
you
To
you
be
had
hon-
motivation.
now, to be honest with you, I loved my time in the Marine Corps. And I probably would have stayed, but I was married at the time, and she didn't want to stay.
And
And
you were,
you know
and
how
you were
that
in love.
I don't know about that.
Or
but-
lust. One of the two. Where did you live in D.C.?
I lived in Maryland the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I just couldn't do the downtown thing.
Yeah. Where were you at downtown? Were you at 3?
Everywhere.
Okay. You were everywhere.
Everywhere. I was actually there the day the plane hit the 14th Street Bridge.
Oof.
Yeah.
How was that?
A cluster.
A cluster.
The biggest cluster you've ever seen.
What
But
year was
I
that?
got to give kudos to people that were willing to jump in that cold ass water and do what they did, and be able to live to talk about it, because you figure they broke when that plane hit the ice. It broke the ice, and that's how you were in that water with ice.
That is cold.
That's real cold.
That is
Yeah.
cold. That is
Yeah.
that for those of you keeping score at home. That was January the 13th, 1982. There were 74 deaths and 5 survivors,
Yep.
and it was a 737-200 series plane.
Yep.
Air-
Didn't quite de-ice it enough.
Oh, so this was on takeoff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Takeoff from National Airport, which was, it's Ronald Reagan Airport, I think now.
yeah, Washington National. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, it was old Washington National Airport.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Cold day.
Oh, yeah.
Now, were you an EMT then at
Yeah.
that point?
Well,
Okay.
and of course, with the fire department there, we had the ladder trucks and all that kind of stuff out there, trying
Right.
to use those, to the advantage of working in that environment. But
No dice.
nah, you couldn't really get close enough
Right.
to be able to do anything with the ladder. Wasn't. And let's face it, back then the ladders weren't that long, not like they are today.
We were just in New Jersey doing a training. Their ladder's 135 foot
Yeah.
rear mount.
Yeah. And I mean, back then 90 was usually about the max.
Right. Technology's evolved.
Yeah. But I remember one, they were building a 26, 27 story, 28 story building downtown one day. And they were lifting a propane tank up with the crane
Okay.
to swing into the building for the heating systems to cure drywall and stuff like that. Well, the cable snapped
Oh,
when
shit.
it got about 14 floors up. And that propane tank came down like a rocket. And when it hit the ground, there was the biggest explosion you have ever heard.
It was like a mini Nagasaki.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it knocked out the windows in about 5 or 6 different buildings. And I mean, there was mayhem everywhere.
Pandemonium.
Yes. I mean, all those people that were working in those buildings, they were all running for their lives thinking it would have been the equivalent of 9/11,
Right. Like back then, we weren't conditioned for that.
Right.
Right.
Right. They thought the world was coming to an end.
How was driving in traffic back then? Was it different than it is now?
Let's just say there was a lot of people that wouldn't ride with me downtown because they said I was the only one that could get 60 miles an hour between traffic lights.
60, that's all you ever got?
Well, it's only a block.
Is that the fastest you've ever gone in D.C.?
No.
What's the fastest you've ever gone?
Me and a buddy of mine were leaving the club one night.
The club.
The
You know
club.
this is going to be a good story.
And he was a little too inebriated to drive, so he got me to drive. And, of course, I was driving his GTX 440 with a 4-speed. And I was coming down Pennsylvania Avenue, and that was back when you used to be able to ride in front of the White House down Pennsylvania Avenue and catch Suitland Parkway on out into Maryland. Well, a police officer decided I was going a little too fast, and he got in behind me, and I kind of left him in the dust. And when...
What was he in, an old Diplomat?
Yeah, he was in one of them old cars, But when I passed by the White House that night, I was doing about 115.
just
And
moving.
had 3 cop cars behind us. And when I hit the Suitland Parkway, I left him in the dust.
You didn't wait.
Nope.
Holy
I kept getting it.
Well, now the statute of limitations has expired, so.
Thank God.
And that never came up, did it, when you got hired at D.C.? Because you never got caught.
No,
Good for you.
no. Because, see, back then at 18, you could drink in downtown D.C.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. So this is prior to the Corps, prior to everything.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. This was just before I went in the Corps. We were just having fun.
Well, and now fun is forbidden almost. It
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like you're not allowed to have no fun no more.
Yeah.
Everything has got to be by the book,
Right.
is how I see it.
Yeah. Because I had a buddy of mine that had a 57 Corvette convertible, 327, 3 deuces. And we got stopped going around the belt line around D.C.
Just cruising, huh?
We were just cruising. We were just doing about 120.
Just moving,
Just cruising along.
minding your own business.
Yeah. But back then, things were just so much different.
Yeah,
I mean,
now things are.
They stopped us, or the guy stopped us, and we pulled over. We didn't try to run from him or anything. We just pulled over, and he says, "I'm not going to give you a ticket, but I want to see what you got under the hood." We showed him the car. He looked at it and did everything. Said, "You guys be careful going home."
Slow her down a little
Yeah,
bit.
slow her down just a little bit. Yeah.
That's funny stuff right there.
Oh yeah.
So, did you ever promote at DC in 16 years?
No, I was really not interested in it. There was too much politics.
Right. What were you? Were you what they call a technician?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know what they call it anymore.
I don't either, but it's been so long since I've been up there
Right.
that I just don't know.
It's a different world.
Yes, it is.
It's an entirely different world.
When I left there because at that time, of course, Gus, my son, was 5, and Sarah, my daughter, was 3.
Right.
And I went to work that night, and we had 9 homicides in one night. And I said, "Screw this! I'm not raising my kids in this environment. I'm done."
That's it.
That's it. I walked away from it.
Wow. So when did you get your paramedic?
I didn't get that until Vance County was still intermediate
Okay.
back then.
So that's
They didn't
you
even-
progressed, right?
Yeah, they didn't even have paramedics.
Okay.
I had always been a EMT,
Okay.
because that was part of the requirements. But then I got my intermediate, and I rode as an intermediate with Vance County for a couple, 3 years, something like that. And I remember telling Steve Kincaid, who's been in it a long time too, that's at Durham. He was one of the instructors at Durham.
Good dude.
Yeah, but Steve was our training officer.
Okay.
And I told Steve, I said, well, Steve, are you ready to go to paramedic yet? He said, oh, we're never going to go to paramedic in this county. Never going to do it. I said, yes, we are next year. And sure enough, we did. We went through the first class that was ever taught, the entire paramedic class, in 6 months.
Ooh.
Including all the ride time, including working our 24-hour shifts.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see my family for 6 months. But I remember that the office came down and administered our final exam in the classroom because I think his name was Bailey back then.
Okay.
Wanted to see if this was possible that they could do this. We had 36 people in the class. Everybody passed the final exam except for 2 guys, and they missed it by 1 point
Wow.
out of 36.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, considering they did it all in 6 months.
That's a lot to throw at you.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember too that when we graduated, when we got our certificates and our cards, they put us on trucks. Said, "Okay, go be a paramedic." Bye. There was no
Field training program.
field training program. No nothing.
You had no mentors. You were the mentor.
Yeah, it was like, okay, go out there and be a paramedic. Bye.
Protocols?
Very limited. There was just, I'll bet it probably wasn't 30, 40 sheets of protocol.
Shit, now it's an app.
Yeah. Now it's what, 100 and some pages?
Shit, I don't know. I'll look it
Yeah.
up. I've got it.
I mean,
I've got it on my phone. Hang on.
I know that the state has revamped them so many times it isn't funny.
This is revision 3. So there's, yeah, you're looking at probably close to 200, 250 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to remember all that crap.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about all that. Yeah. I thought that's what it was there for, was to help you recall.
Well, I don't know. When I left there and went to UNC Air Care and flew with them, we had a 200 question test every year that we had to do. We carried about 65 drugs on the aircraft at that time, or in the trucks. And you were supposed to remember all the indications, contraindications, dosages, what it's used for, all those things for all those drugs.
So you went and flew for Air Care.
Mhm.
What made you want to do that?
Just an opportunity. I wanted out of Vance County for one thing, because I could see the handwriting on the walls, you know, that kind of thing. It got to the point where I was doing more EMS than I was fire, and I wanted the education and experience, because, you know, even though I love fire, I got injured once and it dislocated my hip and tore the artery between the joint.
Oh, shit.
And after 4 or 5 years of hobbling around on that hip, I finally ended up having a hip replacement. And
What year was that?
2001 was
Okay.
when I finally bit the bullet.
That's it. Fuck it. I'm going.
I got to go get this fixed. So anyway, I just wanted the opportunity, and plus it was a whole lot more money too.
Yeah.
You know, a whole lot more money.
Scenery's better.
Yeah, but the education was the biggest thing. Yeah, I mean, I learned so much in air care.
Where were you flying out of?
UNC,
Like,
off the hospital roof.
oh, right on campus.
Yeah, we were still
Shit.
on campus back then.
Okay.
And just before I left there was when they started making all those major changes, putting one aircraft down in Chatham County, one aircraft in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And for me to drive to Fayetteville was 3 hours and 10 minutes one way. You know,
Hard pass.
Yeah, because I mean, I did it a few times, but you know,
Yeah, that's a hard pass.
yeah, you can't work 24 hours and then drive 3 hours and 10 minutes home.
Yeah.
It just got to be a little too much.
I just talked to a chief the other day. He called me. He says, "Hey, we've got a captain's opening. Would you be interested down at the beach?" They work the 20. Well, they work the 3-4 schedule, right? 24
Yeah.
on, 24 off for 3, and then 4 days off.
Right.
And I was like, "It is 3 hours one way to you. Hell no."
Yeah.
48.96. I might have considered it, but I'm tired.
Even then, that's still a long ride, unless
20
you're willing to move there.
24 years of doing this shit's a long time.
Yeah.
And your back doesn't hold up, your knees don't hold up, and luckily I've never spent a night in the hospital. So I just, yeah.
I spent 2 nights in the hospital coming out of a fire.
What happened?
We did the initial attack, of course, wore air packs, all that good stuff. Did everything we were supposed to do and everything. But this was still when air packs were kind of evolving.
And heavy.
Yeah, yeah, they were heavy. When you got the initial knockdown done, when you were doing like mop up,
Mm-hmm.
they would tell you, take your air packs off. You don't need that stuff on anymore.
Right.
Not knowing that that's when you needed it most.
Yeah.
You know, because of
Hydrogen
all the,
cyanide, sulfide.
yeah, all those noxious fumes from foams and you know all the crap they had.
Right.
Well, me and 2 other guys, they had another small fire break out in one of the storage rooms. So we didn't put the air packs back on. We just knocked the door in, started putting water on the fire. It was all pesticides.
Oh, shit. Like organophosphates?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
And all 3 of us ended up in the hospital with a chemical-induced pneumonia
Oh, shit.
from all that. Yeah. So that was no fun.
What was the treatment protocol for that?
Well, a lot of medication. I don't know what it was back then, you know, because this was a long time ago. And nebulizer treatments and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
One of the guys ended up having to be intubated, and he was on the ventilator for probably about 3 weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, because he kind of got scorched a little
Well,
bit.
it's kind of like all the guys from 9/11, Phil, that teaches for us. He, you know, they said the air was safe up there, and he always says that, and he's got lung problems, you know. And it's, you know, it's 9/11 related, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he was there on the pile,
Of
but
course.
they told him the air was safe, right? So,
And that was BS.
yeah.
Anybody's worked in fire knows that when it's the smoldering stage, you can't stand there in the midst of it
Right. What's
because
that?
you don't know what's smoldering.
What did you should know this? What did Ronald Reagan say? The 4 most dangerous words in the world are: "I'm from the government. I'm here to help."
Exactly.
Or the most dangerous
Exactly.
phrase. Yeah.
That's another story I could tell you about. You remember when he got shot
Oh yeah.
at the Hilton Hotel?
Yeah.
I was standing right across the street at the IRS building on standby when he got shot.
So did you all?
We didn't do anything because they
shuffled him.
threw him in that car so quick it wasn't funny. And shoo, Georgetown University Hospital is where they went.
My favorite clip of Reagan is probably when he was giving the speech afterwards and they popped the balloon
Yeah.
and he said missed and he kept going. That was a leader, right?
Uh-huh.
That is a leader.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
What was it like going through the DC Academy?
There wasn't much of one.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like it is today.
Yeah, now they've got
Yeah.
a big complex.
Oh, yeah. Now they've got everything you can think of. You
Yeah.
know? But, you know, back then it just wasn't, it was totally different. It was more on the job training.
Yeah, OJT.
Yeah.
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 Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But, you know, it's just like in I think it was 99, Yeah, I think it was 99. I went to Las Vegas for a conference. UNC had sent me out there for a vehicle maintenance conference because, well, I was in charge of all the ambulances and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just sending you to Vegas.
Oh, it was a great class because one of the things we did was we went over to where the shop was for all the fire departments.
Okay, at Clark County.
Yeah, and they had all of the equipment. I mean, tons of equipment everywhere. But it was at the time when they were getting ready to transition because they realized their biggest mistake was having fire trucks, tankers, engines, ladders, all this stuff, all had been produced by different companies.
Right.
So if a truck went down and you had to send out one out of reserve, nobody knew where anything was.
Right. No layout.
So they went in and replaced every tanker, every engine, every ladder truck, every ambulance.
Wow.
All being manufactured by the same people.
What a concept.
But that way, if you had a truck that went down, you pull one out of reserve, everything is identical to the truck you're sending to the shop. Everything's in the same place, same setup, same everything. So nobody had to rethink what they were doing.
Yeah.
They could get off one truck, get on another truck, and they knew that if they went into cabinet A, this was going to be in cabinet A.
Right. Well, we've consulted a few agencies on that want to go to a tractor drone, a tiller, and I'm all for tillers. The problem is you think one's expensive, you got to have two, and people have scratched their head at me. What do you mean we need two? Well, you're taking an apparatus with a couple 100 feet of compartment space, and you're giving an entire trailer, right? The aerial bed. And that's all compartment. And they're somewhere upwards of 500 cubic feet of compartment space.
Right.
How are you going to put that in something
Smaller.
on a single screw?
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to.
Exactly.
And, so if one goes down.
And what happens when it goes down?
That's right. And then you got to have two.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, you got to buy two.
Yeah.
Like, that's the deal. Go buy a used one.
I remember the tiller drivers were always picked up at home and brought to work. They weren't allowed to drive their vehicles to work because back then the old tillers steered opposite.
Right.
So they didn't want their driver for the tiller to be driving their vehicle to work and then have to jump on the truck and take off because their mind wasn't thinking
right
opposite of what they were normally doing.
I learned to till with my fingers like this.
Uh-huh.
So if I want the wheel to go that way, I shuffle that way.
Yeah.
That's how I learned to till. It's still to this day. If I'm in the tiller, that's what I do. I put my hands like this and I shuffle steer.
But that was the rule back then.
Wow.
That whoever the tiller driver was, he got picked up at home, brought to work. When he got off work, he got taken back home and dropped off.
Wow. Did D.C. have a residency clause? Like, did you have to live within so many miles?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know if that. I know some states like Ohio have deemed it unconstitutional.
Yeah.
To dictate where somebody lives.
But everybody knew that if the crap hit the fan, the word got out quick.
Bring your ass to work.
And you didn't hesitate.
Right.
You went.
Now it's everybody's looking for an excuse to not come work. I mean, we work
I didn't
together.
hear the phone ring.
Yeah, I've had a drink.
I've had lots of drinks.
But I'll be there.
Back then they just said, "I don't give a shit. Get your ass here."
That's right. We called you, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a different world. So, flying, what did you think of that? Like, is it a different experience? Is there different? I mean, obviously, there's got to be different protocols, right?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different protocols, but to me, flying was just like being in an ambulance. You just different mode of transportation,
No room.
But we did well. The older aircraft that I started flying in back then was the old BK-117s, which were the big clamshells in the back. You had a lot of headroom. You could get to the feet of the patient if you needed to. You could do all kinds of things. The newer aircraft they're not as accommodating. You can't get down to those feet. Anything you're going to do from, say, mid thigh down, you got to do it before you get in that aircraft
Really?
because you can't do anything.
A buddy of mine was telling me he was airlifted a year ago. He said he felt like he could touch up with his nose to the top of the cabin. That's
Yeah.
just
That's how close it is.
yeah. He said it, and I'm sure it wasn't, but
But it sure feels like it.
yeah. And when you're in an emergency and you're strapped down to a board, and,
Yeah.
and you're still semi-conscious.
Yeah, because they even tried to use like the EC-135, which is a smaller aircraft. They found that it just wasn't enough room for everything. That's why they went to the EC-145s, and that's what Duke flies now. And UNC, I think, is flying the new Bell helicopters,
Okay.
which are a little bit bigger.
My buddy's a police pilot in Miami, and their hangar is literally next door at the Tamiami Airfield to Miami-Dade County. And
Yeah.
they've got the new Augustas.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit.
Yes. Fast.
Tons of room.
Yep.
Like, you could almost stand up inside the thing. Like, the one pilot named Bubba, he's Cajun. You can tell it's him on the radio because he's real Cajun.
He's real Cajun.
But a good dude, makes some of the best gumbo I've ever had. So a shout out to Bubba over at Miami-Dade Metro Aviation. But golly, when they got those helicopters, so Mario flies the the A-Star. I think it's made by Airbus. He flies the A-Star, single pilot, and he flies with a tactical flight officer. And that thing's fast.
Yeah.
It'll cook, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that Augusta, that thing's got power for days.
Uh-huh.
I
Yep.
couldn't believe it. Like, they took me up, and I was like, "This is amazing." Like, I can't believe that they used to have the program where, I don't know if that still exists for them, but if you were on the line as a fireman and you wanted to transition into that as a paramedic,
Right.
because there is no air care down there. They are
Right.
the air care. They would pay for you to go to flight school and become a pilot.
Oh,
And the same
wow.
in the police department. That's how Mario got in. He was a beat cop, and his goal was to be in aviation, and he got into aviation, and that's where he's going to finish out. But
Oh, I don't blame him.
that is, just building hours. I'm like, holy shit! Like, they paid you your salary and paid for everything.
Yeah, because when I was flying, we still had pilots that were old Vietnam vets.
Oh my God! I bet that was yank and bang.
Those guys were crazy. They would land anywhere. It didn't matter. Yeah, I think I can land there.
I remember a multi-car accident, head-on collision. We had 3 helicopters on the ground, landing a 4th, and they were in a bean field. And the pilot came down, and he hovered about 3 feet off the ground, and all of a sudden, the helicopter just moved laterally under the power lines and sat down. Because that was the only spot. He didn't want to come in at it. But
Right.
He figured he had more control that way, and I just stood there in amazement, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even play a video game and fly one. This guy's doing it in real life, playing for real stakes, and I'm like, I just don't understand. Some people just have talent, right? I don't have that kind of talent.
I don't know that I could either, but I used to tease the guys and tell them if I was flying up front with them, there was a couple of them I would give a hard time to, and I'd tell them, look, just remember Vietnam rules apply. And most people would say, well, what are you talking about? Anything happens to you, I kick your ass out of the seat and I'm taking over because I might crash this thing, but I'm going to give myself a chance.
I'm going to give me a chance. I'm gonna give myself a fighting damn chance.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched them. I knew where the collector was, and I knew what this did, the stick did, and I knew what the pedals did.
I've flown with Mario, and when I got out of the helicopter, I was sweating.
Yeah, because it's amazing what they have to synchronize when they're flying.
The feet and hands and eyes.
The feet, hands, everything is going at one time,
And then
it's kind of like a Harrier pilot, the Harrier
yeah.
jump jets.
Yeah.
If you ever watch the pilot in one of those, when they're trying to land those things, there's so much wash coming out of the engines, with all that hot air coming back up at them,
Right.
that when they're landing, their hands are going 100 miles an hour in 15 different directions, trying to keep that plane level coming down.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because you've got so much of that wash pushing you around.
Do they still fly that airframe?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They try to do short takeoffs, and short landing, that kind of thing. They don't do a lot of verticals anymore like they used to.
Okay.
They still can, but they try not to do that. In the beginning, when that aircraft first came out, I remember when it came to Cherry Point, we lost probably about, I'd say 18 pilots.
Oh my goodness.
Because part of the problem was the airframe.
Okay.
The wing struts were a little too weak.
Okay.
If they bounced a little too hard and didn't hit the two center wheels first, hit one of those wing struts, it would collapse, and all of a sudden the aircraft would
On its back.
And if the engines got pushed forward, that thing was like a rocket going across the ground, and the pilot just wouldn't survive it.
Wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, can't get out.
Wow. Speaking of Cherry Point,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever meet Carlos Hathcock?
No. I had an opportunity once to try and meet up with him at the NCO, because he used to love to go to the NCO club.
Sure.
But I missed him. I got sent out on a deployment.
I came
Short
across, golly, it's been years ago. Dad had the book. I remember it as a kid, that had a picture of a guy in camo and a barrel of a rifle sticking out, and it said Marine Sniper, whatever, 93 confirmed kills. And I always remembered that book.
Yeah.
Well, one day I was on YouTube at the firehouse and came across an old video of him talking. And I was like, man, I was just mesmerized, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Dad was still alive, so I went and tried to find the book. Couldn't find the book at the house, so downloaded the audio book. And that thing was like 7 hours long. That is some good listening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even if a little bit of it's embellished, which I doubt it really is.
No, because I remember one that he had talked about, because I didn't get to meet with him, but I listened to him talk.
Sure, you were in the same room.
Yeah, and he was talking about spending 3 days in the bush, crawling for 3 days
Yeah, that's crazy.
to get to a position where he could take his
Across
shot.
open field.
Yeah. Yeah, he said people would walk past him and never even know he was there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it is, to have that kind of discipline, to have that kind of fortitude, and
Think you'd find that today in a young person?
few and far between.
Exactly.
Few and damn far between.
Yeah.
Now it's the me generation, right?
Yeah.
I think the pendulum's going to swing eventually. Hopefully, it's got to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it go both ways.
Right.
I mean, you came home and the world was different,
Yep.
and then the world changed, and then the Challenger blew up. Things changed,
Yep.
and then 9/11 happened. We were all happy to be Americans for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2008 happened. The stock market basically crashed. The bottom fell out, right? Housing market. And now we're in this lull of, like, it's got to come back at some point.
I hope so, before it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying the other day that we're the longest living democracy in the world,
Yeah.
or constitutional republic. I guess we're not a democracy.
Right.
Every time I'm in D.C., I try to make it a point to go and see our documents, even though the lines are long and it sucks and it's loud, just to kind of connect,
Right.
Had to go get my passport in early January, late December, and did the same thing. Had 2 hours while they were processing my stuff, did the same day thing, and literally walked down in the rain, waited 5 minutes, got to see all of our documents and just kind of, look. And a couple of my friends are Capitol policemen, so I get to smoke in places you're not supposed to.
Of course. My uncle was a sergeant of arms on the Senate floor.
Really?
Yeah, for many years. He was a PG County police officer, and then when he retired from there, he went to be the sergeant of arms on the Senate floor.
Wow.
Hated Ted Kennedy.
Most people do.
He said he was the most arrogant son of a bitch he ever knew.
Yeah, there's a lot of arrogance up there. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said it on this, but I was in D.C. and I was up lobbying, and I was there the day they voted the first time for Jim Jordan, and I got a gallery pass to sit in the gallery of the House. And of course, they take your phones. You're not allowed to have anything with you, which is fine, whatever.
Yeah.
You go in. I had a front row seat, so I'm literally sitting on the rail, overlooking the left side of the House. And these people are on their phones, you know, cross-talking across the body floor about these people. You know, why can't you just cast your vote and just say no or
Yeah.
yes?
Exactly.
Like, why does it have to be an attack? Why does everybody need a soundbite?
They're just obnoxious.
Yeah, both sides,
Yeah.
left and right.
I'm getting to the point where I don't know if I trust either one of them. You know what I mean? You know, but
That's a fair point, Charlie. That's a
I
fair
mean-
fucking point.
if people in this country think that Joe Biden's going to be the answer to their prayers in 24, they got another thing coming. He doesn't even know where he is now,
And that is, you know,
and
as
it's sad.
as people who have seen what cognitive,
Decline is
yeah, and we know the telltale signs more than the average human.
right.
He meets all the criteria.
Oh, to me, his family's being cruel and unusual with him. That to me, they're punishing him.
Yeah, it is
Because,
sad.
I mean, if they couldn't even convict him or charge him with anything because they said he was too old and demented to understand,
that's a problem.
then why is he in office?
Yeah, because then what does that mean for everything he's done? Can that all be unraveled?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it
Who's
some-
really running the show is what I question.
the unelected,
Uh-huh.
the GS people.
Yeah.
That's who's running our country.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've got a friend that is in charge of a very large organization. Grew up with him. He went to a very prestigious law school. Never had to practice law, but went straight into government work. Does a fine job and believes very much in what our country is, that we're
Yeah.
a country of laws. And, you know,
And waste.
he can't stand it, but he has to swim in the pond he's in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's got a mortgage too, right? And a house and a family,
Yeah.
and he's got to, you know, I feel bad for him, you know, I truly do, because it's feast or famine up there.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, guys like us that are trying to do the job right and need the funding,
Yep.
we don't get. That's one thing that's tough for me, is to look at the waste. The waste.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because
I mean,
we're suffering. Like, the people here are suffering. Like, there's places that don't even have, like, we've taught in some places, you know, we were in a Midwest state. The Firehouse 10 is a building like what we're in now. Wasn't insulated. The tin did not come all the way to the floor. And it was a gravel floor.
mm-hmm.
So, like, there was probably this much space underneath the garage. Like, they didn't have the money to buy the concrete.
Yeah.
It was ready to go, but they had to build it in stages.
Right.
Those people deserve the same level of protection as,
As everybody else.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's just baffling. You go to places and you're just like, okay, well, this is how it is. This is the world we're in.
Yeah. And there's a lot of departments still out there, volunteer departments, that if you gave them a truck that you thought was no good anymore because it's outdated or whatever, they would look at it as though they had just gotten a shiny new diamond.
Yeah,
You know, they
And be
would
proud.
thrilled to have it.
proud.
They would be out there every week cleaning and waxing it and doing what needed to be done.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you, you know, it's just like it's like when we left Afghanistan, guys were telling me that, like, they were coming home on ships and they were just pushing shit into the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Toolboxes full of snap-on tools just
They
into
did the
ocean.
same thing in Vietnam. We didn't leave anything behind. We
Jesus.
took it out on barges, and if we couldn't get it back, it went into the ocean.
No shit.
We left nothing
Wow.
for them to have.
How was the food in Vietnam?
It was good. I mean, it just depended on where you went and who you knew, that kind of thing.
Okay. I always
Um,
wondered, like, if it was MREs all the time or if it was.
No, if you knew some of the right locals,
Okay.
and they liked you,
Okay.
Mama San would fix you some stuff and they'd bring it to you, that
Oh, no
kind of
shit.
thing.
And you sweet talked him, right?
Always.
The
Always.
legend.
Always. But at the same token, it was a treacherous environment over there too, because the same people that worked in the restaurants and served you drinks or whatever were the same ones putting on the black pajamas at night and making raids into the camps. And
Really?
yeah, so you just never knew
Who was who?
who was who.
Interesting.
And unfortunately, they used children a lot.
That's tragic.
And it's because they knew that most GIs were soft when it came to children. So toward the end, what they were doing was they'd booby trap the kids, have them walk out with 2 Coca-Colas like this. The whole time there's tripwires up their sleeves. And when they'd do this to hand a Coke to a GI, they would blow up and blow up the GIs too.
What does GI stand for?
Grunts.
Okay. I always wonder what that
Government issue.
government issue.
Yep.
All right. I never knew what that meant.
Yeah.
Cousin of mine, my dad's first cousin, he lost an eye due to a frag grenade in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Marine, and
Yeah.
Purple Heart. But he, his son went in the Air Force, and now he runs the Veteran Services Affair in the county where I grew up, and does a pretty spectacular job helping veterans. And I will say that I wholeheartedly agree that our VA is absolutely broken.
Mm-hmm.
But at the local level, I think people are trying to do the right thing, is what I see.
Yeah.
It's the failure at the federal level, and we got a lot of firemen that are they're former military.
Yeah.
And getting them the absolute help that they need. I mean, I can't imagine carrying a rucksack and doing everything that you guys were forced to do, and then expecting, your back's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's not how it works. Your body breaks down over time, and you can only handle so much.
I remember one time at the air base in country, we had a rocket attack one night. And of course, in Vietnam, even at midnight, it could be 110 degrees.
Holy shit.
It would be hot. So you usually slept with nothing on,
Sure.
You just kept your clothes beside you. But we had this rocket attack one night, and I was coming back to the hooch, and when the rockets started going off, I just took off for the bunker. Well, one of the guys that was out there took a picture of 3 guys running across the field to the bunker with nothing but their helmet M16 and their boots on. That was it.
I think you have a pattern of doing shit like that, Charlie.
Hey, not me. Gus was the one that did that time.
That's terrible. That's terrible. God rest his soul. It's terrible.
Yeah. He's the one that you couldn't keep clothes on, even when he was little. From the time he was little.
Even as an adult.
Even as an adult, too, yes. Uh-huh.
Firehouse be damned. He didn't care.
Yeah. I went down to a buddy of mine's place down the road from our house on the lake, on Carr Lake. And I knew Gus was down there with Mark and all the rest of the group down there, and they were all having a good time.
Getting tuned up.
Yeah, and I walked over there and I said, Mark, where's Gus? He started laughing. He says, he's down there on the dock. And I looked down there, and Gus turned around and looked at me and holds both fists up and goes, yay me! And he was stark naked. Drunkard than a fart. But,
That is that's a Gus story right there.
yeah.
That's a Gus story.
That's him. That was him.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. He loved a good time.
Mm-hmm.
He loved a good time. He came by that honestly, too.
And the women loved him.
Yeah, yeah. He never met one he didn't love.
He just had that gift of gab.
Came by that honestly, too.
He must have got that from his mother.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
So how?
God.
So you left Vance County. You went to Air Care.
Yep.
Flew with them. Was in charge of their fleet. What did you do after that?
Well, that's when they started moving the aircraft so far away.
Right.
It got to be too much driving for me, too many hours. Just,
Right. Cumbersome.
It just got bad. So about that time, Jeff Bright went to work at Franklin County.
Oh,
And
JB.
I'd known JB for years, you know. And so I called him and I said, Jeff, you all need some folks? And he said, if you want to come on.
I love JB.
So I went to work there, and that's where I finished out my career. Spent 17 years at Franklin County.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had a last adventurous shift.
Sat through a lot
You saw
of directors.
Yeah.
A lot of directors.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that I want to say that's the norm, not just there but everywhere.
And it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. It
That's what's sad.
sometimes you just gotta say this is our guy, this is who we're going with, and this is what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think politics has played way too much into public safety.
Exactly. I mean, so many of them are using them as stepping stones to go to bigger departments or do this or do that instead of focusing on perfecting what they have.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this. Other day, I was in the firehouse. You remember Locution, the voice dispatch?
Mhm.
It's now active. Talking with the fire chief, and he's like, how you feel about that? And I was like, I love it. No more XYZ person on the radio screaming.
Uh-huh.
It's a monotone voice, the same cadence every time. You know, they've got like a
And it's only human nature that,
yeah,
as a dispatcher, you're going to get excited when the call
yeah.
comes in with multiple things happening at
It's
one
human
time.
nature,
Yeah.
right? If we can take the emotion out of it
Yeah.
and just make it, you know, like the garbage man turning the corner and seeing garbage cans. If we can take that emotion out and just make it, it is what it is. I think it's a great step for them. I'm happy for all of them.
I did that at the firehouse one time at Henderson when I was running the ambulance and fire at the same time.
Okay.
We had 3 or 4 different calls, and one of the dispatchers, won't mention their name, but one of the dispatchers,
We'll protect the guilty today.
she would always say at the end of every sentence that she said on the radio, she would say, "At this time."
We used to play a drinking game.
And Chief Laster at that time, Chief said, if she says at this time one more time, I'm going to go down there and strangle her. And about that time, we got an EMS call. And I jumped in the ambulance, and what do you think I did?
At this time.
Medic one's en route at this time. And I hung up the radio.
I think you're getting to the point now in the job where you just mash the button. And, you know, there are counties and cities now that if your wheels are in motion, the GPS sensor picks up the computer and you don't have
Yeah.
to talk on the radio other than a size up.
Right, and you get to the scene, you just punch a button on the computer on scene.
Right. And then you just give, that's the way it was in Durham.
Yeah,
Yeah. You give your size up and you talk on your TAC channel.
yeah,
There's no
Exactly.
need to have all that talking.
no. But you still have it with the volunteers.
Well, and not for nothing against volunteer or career, but it's both. And
Yeah.
I mean, we see it.
There's radio hogs everywhere.
Well, I mean, we were just in New Jersey, and we went to a work and fire with them, and I didn't remember hearing a lot of traffic from the company that we were with, right? They responded with, I think, 3 companies on the box. But the other companies, good Lord, right? Like a lot of people talking on the radio a lot and a lot of senseless chatter,
Oh yeah.
you know, and again, that comes with discipline and education, right?
Oh yeah. Well, DC was a lot like that back in the early days too, because you'd get like a 6 alarm, and you get all those people coming to the scene at one time.
Right.
There are a lot of talking on the radio then.
Now, when you guys would have a job that big, would anybody outside DC come in?
No.
DC only.
Yep.
Wow. I know that I think Kentland comes into the city now,
Yeah.
but I don't think many companies do come in to the city.
Now, if it was over in like Sterling, Virginia, which
Okay.
is right across the bridge from DC,
Right.
DC would respond over there to Sterling.
Okay.
But a lot of that was political,
Really?
because Charles E. Smith owned all the buildings over there, and he was big time.
So it's all about politics and public safety.
Money talks and
Bullshit.
BS walks.
That's right. That's sad.
Yep.
That's so sad. That's where we're at. That's sad. So what are you going to do now you're retired? The legend is retired. You're doing ME work.
Yeah, I'm still medical examiner in 4 counties. So
Do you enjoy it?
That kind of keeps me busy. Well, they're just dying to meet me, but you know.
Jesus Christ, Charlie. What the hell?
I always say they're my favorite patients. They never complain. You
Right.
know?
Right.
You know, and it's interesting work. You know.
It's honest work.
Yeah, it's interesting work.
How many miles did you put on last year?
Almost 8,000
In 4 counties in North
4
Carolina.
counties. Well, you figure the 4 counties I'm covering is 3,300 square miles.
Holy
Granville, Vance, Warren, and Franklin. And Franklin's a big county.
Yeah. Granville's long but narrow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a lot of miles though, bro.
A lot of calls.
So when you're on call, you could go to any one of those counties at any time.
Yep. Anywhere. 24 hours at a time.
Oof.
Sometimes 48. This weekend, 36. Or, yeah. No, I'll be working 3 days straight.
72.
72. On call 72
Well,
hours.
it takes a lot of money to fill up that diesel truck.
Yeah, that's why I'm driving the Honda now.
Yeah. What happened to your, what was it, a Ford Flex?
My Flex,
Yeah.
yeah. The motor decided it was going to peter out on me.
Yeah. Well, that Honda's
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good little car.
Yeah, they make a great car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that filling up with diesel is tough.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even in my Jetta, my Jetta gets 53 miles to the gallon. That's my daily driver. And then we got the box truck, right?
Yeah, I mean, my big dually doesn't get 53 miles to the gallon. I
No.
wish it did.
Well, my truck, pulling the trailer, will do 22 on the interstate, keeping up with the flow of traffic. If I'm not dragging the trailer, I can get 26.
Well, you're doing better than I do.
It's that, I don't know what it is. It's something Ford's got. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I just mash the button and drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But see,
cost of doing business.
Mine's still an old 7.3.
Yeah, and you can hear it coming.
Uh-huh.
I miss the mornings you drive that thing to work. Because mine's the new 7.3, and let me tell you, you can't hear a freaking thing. Like, you remote start it,
Yeah.
you can't hear it across the parking lot. You got to look and see if the brow lights are on. That's
Oh,
how you know if
geez.
it's started.
Nah. Mine still rattles and rocks.
Yeah, especially when it's cold.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my truck,
Yeah.
she just does her thing.
Till it gets warm.
Yeah, then she runs like a striped ass mule.
Yep. Yep. And especially with the tuner I've got on mine.
What, you got like a bully dog or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got a bank set up.
Oh, you weren't playing. So how's the farm? Everything good up there?
Yeah, everything's good up there. We're just working on some projects up there, working on the house that's up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sister's doing well?
Yeah. Yep.
Good.
Yep. She's hanging in there.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you've only made like what, 1 or 2 trips since you've retired?
One.
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 You need to get out more.
I went to Florida with my sister.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We went down for her son, my nephew's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a Manatee County detective.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went down and spent about a week down there with them.
You have to tell them how you surprise them. You started talking about it. You have to tell them, because this is a Charlie Gray story right here, folks. This is
Well, of course, he knew his mother was coming, but he had no idea I was coming.
Right.
Because I wanted it to be a surprise. So his brother, God bless him, he kept it a secret for almost a month
wow.
because he knew that we were coming together. So we went and stayed with his older brother, who is just 2 or 3 years older than he is.
Okay.
We went and stayed at his place, and Brian, of course, was coming up to have his birthday party at his brother's house, and he had no idea. Had no idea. So I got the idea that I would go hide in Sam's room, his bedroom, and wait for Brian to come in and say his hellos to his mother and everybody else, and then my sister tells him, says, "Oh, your birthday present's in Sam's room. Go get it." And he comes walking in there, and I'm laying across the bed with a big red bow on my zipper. And I told him, I said, "Come unwrap your present, big boy." And the only thing he could say was, "Holy fuck, I can't believe you're here." Because he knows my string doesn't stretch very far.
No, your string don't stretch very far from home.
Yep. Yep. So it was a good time.
That's awesome.
It was a good time.
Well, as I get older, I realize that families, misguided 20s,
Yeah.
Lazy 30s, you hit 40. I was telling a friend of mine, a battalion chief in West Virginia, we buried a friend of ours, and it was tough, right? Because losing Dad and then losing Bernie was really rough.
Oh yeah.
Just I hadn't dealt with everything on my own, right? And then Bernie passing, but we're standing there, and I was like, this is what we have to look forward to. And he kind of looked at me, cocked his head, and it was a beautiful day in West Virginia. We're on a mountainside at the church, and overlooking this beautiful valley, and there was a flyover. But
Yeah.
it wasn't on purpose. It was just one of those things that happened. The military was doing.
Yeah. Exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They flew over, and we were like, what the hell just happened? Because it was timed perfectly. And so I said, this is what we have to look forward to. And he's like, what's that? And I said, burying our friends, man. We've crested over. This is
Absolutely.
the tough part. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember the day we laid Gus to rest, and we've talked about that day. There was some wild shit that happened that day. And
Oh yeah.
I remember it was raining. We rode the rescue up, back doors open, and it was a rainy day.
Yep.
In Butner, right? We rode up 85 and
Yep.
laid Gus to rest, and but that's what we have to look forward to now, right?
But see, a lot of people didn't understand what really happened with Gus either, But what he did was work too many hours.
Right.
He had worked 107 hours straight because he had gone to Bethesda, worked 24, gone to Redwood, worked 24, went back to Bethesda, worked 24, went back to Redwood, worked 24.
Yep.
Was off 12, worked 12, went back and worked another 24.
Too much.
It's too much. And he fell asleep.
Yep. Yeah, that
Yep. And I was at work that day.
it was a tough day.
I was on the QRV that day. I beat the ambulance to Wake Med.
Phew.
Because when I got the call, I just
Out of service. See ya.
lights and sirens
I'm gone, baby. I'm gone.
all the way to Wake Med.
Yeah, that unfortunately, and it's sad that people have said that firemen are paid too much.
Huh.
That we're union thugs in some states.
Yeah.
Right? But it's sad that a guy is put into a position where he has to work that much in order to provide
Yep.
and to make a
Exactly.
life that is decent.
Right.
And, like today when you pulled up, I was painting a bailout prop.
Right.
this is a business for us, but we do it when we want to do it.
Yeah.
And we don't do it because we have to do it. We do it because we want to do it. Nobody's getting rich, but we're having fun.
Yeah.
And he was
Well,
having
and
fun at the
you're providing a service to the fire service
right.
to teach people what to do so they don't get hurt.
Well, and that's the one thing that we were talking about with a lot of people there. The cost associated with training, I'm not a salesman by any stretch of the imagination. Either you want something or you don't.
Right.
And I always tell people cheap isn't badass and badass isn't cheap. And if you're worried about the dollars of training, wait until you have to come back and revamp everything when you lose a guy in the line of duty.
Or have to look at their family and say, well, I wish we'd have done more training.
I wish we'd have done this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've sat across with Jeff Cool, who bailed
Yep.
out of Black Sunday with Joey D, right?
Yeah.
Sat across and talked with him. And, when we linked up with Sterling for the bailout stuff, our numbers went through the roof because guys were like, how do we get this training? Because there's nobody around here teaching it. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that say that they'll teach it, but being factory authorized by Sterling themselves, which is based out of Greensboro.
Right.
They're owned by the Vertical Supply Group in Greensboro, but based out of Biddeford, Maine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't realize the intricacies involved, and like some states like Jersey, if you're taking your bailout, your initial training, you have to do it 15 times, 15 documented times before you can put that unit into service.
Right.
And then you have to ride it so many times per year in order to keep your certification, because they don't want firemen dying.
Right.
Because they can go out 3 stories and come to the ground.
Yeah.
And just like forcing doors, everybody.
And Gus used to love that shit.
Yeah.
He'd love to come out of a 4 or 5 story building and come head first down to the
A
ground.
fucking nut.
He just thought it was fun.
He was a nut.
Mhm.
But there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing wrong with.
But there wasn't a certification he wouldn't go after.
No. But what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Why is that? I wanted to ask you, because there seems to be. Has it always been, in your experience, that qualification is the same as certification?
No, because there's a lot of things that you can learn in the field that you won't learn in a classroom.
That's
And
the
you
truth.
can be certified in it, but not qualified in it.
So how do you feel
It
about
takes
these?
the practice and the ambition to want to be a perfectionist when it comes to your job.
Sure. I recently had a Facebook interaction with a guy. There was a video posted by a department. They were doing training, and I said, "Hey, you forgot to gap the door." And his response to me was, "Well, what training prop can you gap the door on?" And I was like, "Let me show you some video. Let me show you some pictures. Here's 2 props that do it. You just said it can't be done. I showed you that it can, and then he wants to come back and attack me with an ad hominem attack, and that's a personal attack." And I'm like, no. Your words were, you can't do this. My words are, you can do it not only on a prop, but you can do it with a real door on a prop and crush a metal door and get around it and learn how to defeat it and learn that the door is going to give and flex. And
Right.
if you can't get into a building that's on fire without busting glass or taking the hinges, then you're not proficient at your job.
No.
And
That's where the Halligan tool came into play.
that's right. And trying to explain to this younger generation that, we can't just kick doors in, that as much as we want to, these new houses are built differently, and people like me put lag bolts in. So,
Well, lag bolts, and now they're putting in steel frame members.
yep. Yeah. So now you got to know how to defeat it.
Yeah.
Or the Fox lock.
Right.
You've seen those in your day.
Yeah, and they've got those new ones now when you leave the house that pop up out of the floor.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It's like a safe lock.
yeah, I had a guy who was one of my good patients.
Okay.
He was dying to meet me. His house was secured that way,
Oh, my.
and there was only one guy that knew how to get into it. And so the police department got him to come over there. He had to be on his network, punch in a code. It would reduce the flap and make it so the door could open.
Wow.
But you only had 10 seconds to put in the next code to unlock the door.
Holy shit.
That's how secure his house was.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
It baffles the imagination, the shit we run across.
Oh, yeah.
You know, working in East Durham, we came across some cool shit.
Oh, yeah.
People that have nothing to do.
Uh-huh. They're kind of like the prisoners.
Yeah,
they don't have anything to do but learn a new way to screw with somebody.
Yeah, and you're like, how did you do? You know, you're there on a medical call, and you're like, what are you doing? You just laugh and you just shake your head. You know.
Oh yeah.
But so you're gonna continue working on the farm. Are you gonna give up the ME too when you let your medic go?
Yep.
So that's it. Into the sunset.
I'll be done.
So April of next year.
Yeah, and I figure, you know, I hung in there for 52 years full time.
Yeah.
I think that's plenty enough anyway.
Well, I mean, you know, Phil and I, he would have loved to have been here. He's sick as a dog. He always says, you know, these guys want to talk about all the fires that they've been to, and he says if you haven't been to an incident that has a name, you probably haven't been doing much.
Exactly.
And you've mentioned a couple that were kind of big deals.
Yeah.
You know, and you've had a hell of a career.
Yep.
You raised a good family.
Yep.
Raised a good fireman.
Oh yeah.
A ballsy fireman.
Well,
a funny fireman.
And my daughter, she was a Durham paramedic for 13 years before she went back to nursing school.
She got smart.
And now she's the assistant director of the trauma center in Annapolis. It's a 96-bed ER.
No thanks.
No thanks. And she grew up with fire department and everything else too, because she and Gus would always tag along with me to the fire, you know, to fire department stuff and to scenes and stuff like that. I remember one day, me, Gus, and Sarah left the house to go to an accident scene because I was a volunteer with Townsville Fire Department in Townsville, North Carolina for 30 years plus.
Okay.
And they were at the house, so they jumped in the truck with me and we took off to this scene. Well, by the time EMS got there, we had already started IVs on all of them. We already had them spine boarded. All they had to do is back their truck up, and we slid them in and said, "Here's your patient," and gave them a report, and we were done. And they were gone. They said they couldn't believe it. They were expecting to have to do so much.
That's funny.
But we let the fire department go ahead and extricate, and we just started doing our thing.
Right.
Somebody-
You've seen so much change.
Oh, yeah.
From life pack monitors that could transmit Wi-Fi signal to cardiac.
I remember the old Laerdal 3000s.
Holy shit.
That had we started out with the tapes, cassette tapes. And then we went to the little cartridges.
Right.
I couldn't tell you how many cassette tapes and cartridges got erased before they ever got heard, because it would record everything you said on scene.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. A lot of cussing.
Stuff you wouldn't want said in the church house, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now you got body cams with the police.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that really jumps up that nobody thinks about.
Well, I do, because I look at them to see if that little light's on. If that little light's on, I'm careful about what I say.
Yeah. I'll make sure I'll ask them. I'll be like, "Are you recording?" They'll be like, "Oh, no, not now." And I'm like, "Cool." But, you know, the other thing is some of them got that. They may not have their body cam on, but they have the recorder going in the car.
Yeah.
So your voice is always recorded. So it's just like, you can't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
You got to be politically correct. You got to be.
You just have to stifle what you say anymore.
Yeah. So,
it's not like the old days when you could say whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, you could talk cash shit.
Yeah,
Nobody cared.
I mean, I remember how much we used to cut up with each other and do so many crazy things to each other. at the stations and stuff, you know.
Like firehouse pranks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, get up on the roof and dump buckets of water down on them while they're sitting on the front stoop, you know.
Having a cigar?
Having a cigar or just watching the scenery walk by, that kind of thing.
I miss ramping.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things.
We used to do so many things.
Yeah, sitting on the front ramp. That was the life, man.
I remember when we had the old Coke bottle caps and
Okay.
stuff. We used to fill guys' beds up with those Coke bottle caps.
Jesus.
So that they would go in to slide in their bed at night. And, oh man.
That's pain.
They would get cut all to pieces from all those bottle caps. And I remember that we had this one engineer that used to stay up late every night that we were on shift. He'd sit down in the radio room watching TV or, you know, whatever he was doing down there. Well, one night we took and put Resusci Annie in his bed. It made it look like there was somebody sleeping in his. He come up there and he goes, shakes Resusci Annie, says, "Get out of my bed! Get out of my bed! What the hell are you doing? Get out of my bed!" And of course, you could hear all the muffled laughter in the room because everybody knew. But yeah, we used to have a good time playing pranks on each other.
Yeah, that was back when things were a little more.
Yeah.
It was more family.
Oh yeah.
Now you got guys that I bring my food to work, and
Yeah.
I'm not eating. With y'all.
we cooked 3 meals a day. One person was usually assigned to cook.
Yeah, and it was never the new guy.
Yeah. That's right.
He always did dishes, and he ate last.
Yeah.
Wasn't allowed to sit and watch TV.
But he had to learn how to cook.
Yeah, because he probably wasn't taught.
And he had to learn how to cook the firehouse way.
Yeah, unless your mom was like really good at something, and then that was okay.
And of course, even though Gus was a great cook, he just didn't remember to turn the stove off at Station 2.
I wasn't gonna say it. I was.
Oh, I will.
I wasn't gonna.
But that's why they make fire stations now where it shuts the gas off when the alarm goes off for that station.
Yep.
That way you don't have to worry about it.
I just drove by that firehouse yesterday. As a matter of fact. Sitting there empty. Sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yep.
All in the name of progress.
Even though it got a new kitchen.
A damn nice kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah, Gus did him a favor.
Day room. It was bathrooms. I mean, it was
But
full
it's
on.
bad when you're coming back to your station and you hear the tones go out for your station.
And the old man lives across the street, literally.
Yep. Oh, man.
Good times. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, Charlie.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about a few people right quick. Firehooks Unlimited, don't be fooled by imitators. Box 1971 is an authorized trainer and distributor of Firehooks Unlimited. Fire Decks, their mantra is you protect them, we protect you. And if you want the lightest fire gear, on average 4 pounds lighter than any other PPE, look to Fire Decks. And if you want something that's PFAS and PFOA free, definitely look to Fire Decks. Firehouse Innovations Corporation, Charlie, we did talk about the forcible entry doors that you can actually crush. And if you want some forcible entry training and you want it turnkey to where we show up with all the tools and the bells and the whistles and you don't have to do anything, not even clean up your mess, Firehouse Innovations, we have 2 of those doors as well as the crush door prop. We have everything that Firehouse Innovations makes, as a matter of fact. They've got over 2,800 doors in use worldwide. Akron Brass for the flow meters, nozzles, and appliances. Akron Brass doesn't need catchy slogans. Old Pappy's Tool Lube, don't be a fool, lube your tool. And First In Leather, if you use the code BOX1971, you get a 10% discount checkout of $50 or more. Tell Mikey we sent you. And lastly but not least, Rock Rooster. Every step matters. Be the cock of the walk. Rock out with your cock out. Rock out with Rock Roosters. Those are the boots that we wear with Box 1971. Charlie, it has been a pleasure to sit and catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time to sit here and talk with folks about your storied and long career.
It's been fun.
It's been fun to sit and talk about Gus. You're a proud dad. You've done a good job.
Yep.
I hope that you, when you fully retire in April, that you are able to wear your legend shirt officially and retire
Exactly.
again. Look forward to going and getting coffee with you and bullshitting and going to lunch.
Yeah.
It's good to see you healthy and happy.
We will definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. It is great to see you. Remember, folks, to train hard, we are all that they have.